signals for the Baltimore Colts. Unitas gives to Amici. The Colts are the world champions. Amici scores.
It's amazing, sensational, dramatic, heart-rending, exciting, thrilling finish in the history of college football. California won the big game.
5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
This is Phil Steele.
This is Mike Burnham.
This is Wes Durham.
This is Mike Ashley.
Hi, this is Chuck Foreman, number 44 of the Minnesota Vikings.
Woo, mercy, this is handsome Jimmy Vane, the Boogie Woogie Man.
This is Coach Fry with Virginia Tech Football, and you are listening to Big Dog Sports Talk.
Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to roll? Okay, let's do it.
Rick Watson's got the mic, he's the big dog king. Cover sports so sharp, it's a new river thing. Virginia Tech fire, rapid pride too. Every stat, every play, he's bringing it to you. He's got that voice, deep as the valley, breaking it down, no dilly, no dally. Big dog sports talk, feel the bark. He's got the scoop, faster than a sprint. Calling plays like a coach, every word's a hint. From the courts to the fields, the stories unfold. Rick's play-by-play, worth its weight in gold. With a laugh and a growl, he'll pull you in. Big Dog's podcast, let the games begin. Big Dog Sports Talk, feel the bark.
Hey, good morning. How are you? It is the Thursday edition of the program, and we got a lot going on today. A lot of great stuff. Good morning, Stephen. How are you? Hit us up in the McClellan Chiropractic chat room, also on the Professional Door text line. Bob Black, the voice of the Richmond Spiders. Coach Bud Foster, 7:30, and then Dwight Vick. It's a lot of show as we continue to roll along this week. It's been some terrific shows, terrific guests. Awesome stuff. And we're glad to have you aboard wherever you might be from our family fencing studios. Give them a call, 540-200-8294 for a free quote. And I mentioned the McClellan chat room. Join us there, as many of you do daily. 155 Walters Drive. Go see Mark. Check out the video we have up on our channel because he's the best. We're presented each and every day by Pulaski County Sports and Entertainment. Thanks to Jonathan Sweet and to Tim Miller. AJSA Racing is going to be returning to Pulaski County for the 4th consecutive year from July 31st to August 2nd. And that's the jet ski race up at Clater Lake. The schedule is going to have a corporate challenge event. That's what Jonathan Sweet's going to be doing Friday, July 31st, with professional and amateur events scheduled for Saturday the 1st and then Sunday the 2nd. Going to be a vendor village, live music, freestyle show. Awesome. And make sure you check out the New River Trail State Park. Stretches for 57 miles. So again, great work. Pulaski County Sports Entertainment, Little River Heating and Air, 1095 Radford Street in Christiansburg. Go see them, 540-553-2971. Our attorney, BDST fan question of the week by the attorney Ryan Pry. 701 West Main Street in Radford, Trust and Estate Planning. Looks like the Houston Texans are going to win our question. We had which of the 4 teams that haven't been to the Super Bowl would go first: Houston, Jacksonville, Cleveland, or Detroit. And Houston has 21 votes, followed by Detroit with 15. Cleveland has 3. Jacksonville has 2. There's a big drop-off. National Bank, member FDIC, the exclusive banking partner of me and of this program here on YouTube. Thanks to Larry Ramsey. Don't forget, if you want to send your BDST fan question of the week, do so either to the text line, sponsored by Professional Door, 391-0788, or hit me up, DM me. Lawson's Mobile Home Supply is 300 North Franklin Street in Christiansburg. Give James a call at 540-381-8011. The NRV Super Bowl, called them for your lane this weekend. Leagues are forming, 540-382-5525. They've got adult leagues, mixed leagues. They've got leagues for kids. Doing it right now. Youth League Bowling is $12 a week. That starts September the 12th in the morning. And you sign up for the mixed leagues, men, women, and mixed leagues at the control center when you go in to the Super Bowl. So you don't want to miss that. Sundown Electric in Elliston, one of the most reputable businesses in our area. Reach out to the Smith brothers. Low cost and some of the best quality work you're going to find anywhere. ReadySetFund.com. It's a great way for your organization or your school or team or whatever to raise money. Reach out to Bob Christ, bobchrist11@gmail.com, and read up on the Ready Set Fund. And Professional Door Incorporated. We've been talking about here in year number 40. The month of July started year number 40 for Professional Door, which is amazing. Congratulations to Travis and the whole family. It's awesome. Reach out to them at 674-0008. And you can find out how you can get $40 off immediately off of your preventative maintenance visit. Just tell them you heard us talking about it, but you have to do it in the month of July. All right? You have to do it in the month of July. Let me go get Creed here. Got to get Creed in the house. He's, being that guy. Pain in the ass is what he is. Okay. All right. He's in now. So, yeah, we got a great show today. Bob Black, Bud Foster, and Dwight Vick. So, there you go. And I am going to I want to ask Coach about the Ohio State game. I think that'll be fun. I want to go back to, I think it was September of 2014. And get his thoughts on that. I think it's of all the amazing things he accomplished as a defensive coordinator. I think that one probably is one of the highlights people still remember. Ohio State, number 1. I think Tech won 35-21. I'm not mistaken. I think that's right. What is that? Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Okay. Sorry, I saw a new toy up here on the in the studio. They're always throwing things into the studio, like little, and I haven't had time to figure out 90% of them. So it's interesting when you get kind of sidetracked here when you look around. That's what you're doing, getting a little sidetracked. More fallout from the ESPN firings yesterday. Of course, they took over. I don't know if they took it over. I guess they did, invested in the NFL Network, whatever it might be, and they fired immediately like many behind-the-scenes people. Now, look, I understand. I get. And something Keon said yesterday is likely very true. Like, I think Disney has so much money in its coffers. They're willing to put out their own version of political messaging in their movies and in the things they release. I mean, Disney Plus is a failure. ESPN is becoming a failure, although it's not as big of a failure as we think because they're paying 5 people combined $150 million. So they have money. If you can pay Pat McAfee $60 million a year, which I just don't understand. And again, I have no problem with McAfee at all. I just don't think he's really doing anything necessarily groundbreaking. I mean, and again, they don't own his show. They just bought rights to his show or invested in his show. He still calls the shots and he still pays his people and things. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. But it's very interesting that this is, I mean, however they might look at it and how much money they may have, this is a big blow to that brand. And it seems like this one, because there were so many big names involved, has got more of an impact. They've made some very bad choices. They virtue signal all the time on these shows. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. It's bizarre how much money they pay out, and it's bizarre that they think this is going to be the kind of thing that most fans are going to participate in. And that's something I don't understand about any of this, whether you're talking about being on the left side of politics, on the right side. I don't understand how eliminating half of your potential audience immediately is a good business model. I mean, that's why that kind of thing never should matter, but it does to too many people, I guess. And that's what, ESPN has done. But McAfee, has to pay for his studio at ESPN. And again, he takes care of it. He still owns it. So I don't understand the whole payment thing there is a little complicated with him. But he's making, a lot of money, and that's fine. I don't begrudge that at all. If he's getting ratings and doing that, that's great. But the way they handled all this is being ripped apart too. I mean, a lot of people didn't find out directly. They found out while they were on the air. They found out on X. And there's another decision. It just makes you realize that it's not being run very well. To sit there and have somebody, you're not going to employ them, and yet they finish what they're doing that day, and then you don't tell them, is bizarre to me. But this is the new ESPN over the last several years since it's been owned by Disney. It got sideways, and none of this, I think, has worked out the way sports fan in particular, and we'll talk about it from a sports fan's perspective, had been promised or had been enticed that it would, was streaming with, I remember when Disney bought ABC and ESPN, they're going to take it to the next level. Okay. Well, they've bought a lot of properties, and I think they found themselves overpaying tremendously. Just look at their deal with the NBA, which was ridiculed throughout the industry. We're going to talk about this stuff with Bob Black coming up. And for us, and we've talked about this too, there's no way to be able to afford going to all these different places to try to find your games. And that's when you have to just be selective. Here, obviously, in this part of the country, with ACC being first and foremost, Tech and Virginia and et al., you're going to subscribe to the networks that carry those games. And, in case you can't make it to a game or you want to keep up with Tech football. The NFL's being challenged, I don't think anything will happen, but they've been brought to court. Lots of people testified against their model and what they're doing, gouging us, the customer. And that's the bottom line. The customer's always going to get gouged. Always. And then you have to just make a decision. I don't know about you, but I'm not going to worry about purchasing 8 different streaming services to watch the NFL next year or this year. I'm not going to make sure I see every game by going to buy this and that and the other. If it shows up on something I have, that's great. If not, I'll just keep up with it on my phone. But we are the consumer, and we do have the control over what we spend our money on. But this whole streaming thing just seems like it's not going, or hasn't been developed, I guess I should say, the way I think it had been envisioned. It's not dominating the advertising dollar because that's still on television. All right, there still is television. The advertising rates for the NFL are going up, up, up. As I saw yesterday that they have $14.5 billion revenue, which is more than all the other sports leagues combined, I think I saw. From bowlers everywhere that get their kicks. One Rick Watson Saturday out of nowhere rolled on 186. ESTers were all stunned as Rick wasn't their first pick. Yeah, it was kind of like Mr. Irrelevant bowler, and then I'll throw 186. Brandon still hasn't recovered, Morris. Still getting texts, people talking about what a great time they had at the Bash on Saturday. It's going to be kind of weird not having a Bash this Saturday. So, with all these takeovers, remember how they're bundled? Remember how the whole thing with their bundle, they tried to push all that, whatever it was, they were bundling up with 2 other things. I don't even remember what the hell it was. I think that failed tremendously. Brandon will get over it. He's been through much worse. That's true. He is a Steelers fan, Morris. When you couldn't get, for a while there, you couldn't get, what carrier was it? I've already lost. Remember what happened last year with, oh man, I'll forget about it. I can't remember the details, but you remember it happened to YouTube TV. They lost the rights. That's right. ESPN pulled off of okay. So ESPN pulled its stuff off, or delayed getting a deal done with YouTube TV. Remember, because there were a few weeks there we didn't have college football from ESPN networks. And that was all calculated because they were trying to get people to, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? You better go buy our new bundle. If you don't, you're going to miss games. Well, they didn't get the response that they had hoped, and then eventually it came back because that backfired on them. But it's things like that that will continue as long as you see it's never a good thing when you see one place buying so many other things. It never, ever works out in the long run. And that's what's happened through streaming. Unfortunately, that's exactly what's happened. So, hate it for all the people that lost their jobs. They'll go on. The network will go on like they just don't care. Carl Ravitch said this, who had been there for 33 years. He says, there's a lot going on now with ESPN. We're well aware of it, and we're not going to discuss that. This is on his podcast. He says, look, I'm not going to get into it. So apparently it makes it sound like there's going to be something else that's going to come out about all this. I don't know. But again, that's a guy who was there 33 years. Seems like a good dude. Loved calling baseball, loved being around baseball. Found out toward the end of his last half inning, he was fired. And yeah, so sad. Very, very sad. Very, very sad indeed. But it is a reality of this cutthroat business. And now Pat McAfee is going to be thrown into the forefront. And I think he's going to get a lot of blame for this. And I don't think it's his fault. This isn't a decision that he made. Now, granted, they've gone through now, I think, 3 layoffs since he was brought on 2 years ago. But again, that's not him making those decisions, right? That's not him. So we shall see. We shall see. But I think when business people take over instead of industry people that understand sports broadcasting, that's what happens. And that's it. This was taken over by Disney executives that have no clue about really ESPN. They think that the hot takes and the anger and or at least the phony anger, none of that's real, right? It's just acting. We had Stephen A. Smith back on the radio show back in 2007, 2008, something like that. And he was a much different person in an interview. And this is before he turned into what he's turned into on ESPN. But he said basically during that interview, he said, Rick, I'm playing a character. He was very honest, very honest during the interview. And I didn't think anything, no ill will. And I don't have any ill will towards him now. I don't watch him. I don't like his shtick. I don't like what he brings to the table. I don't like being loud and just saying anything to say it. But I remember thinking, well, that's exactly right. You're playing a character. You're in that role. You're whatever it is you're playing. And his character was still developing into what it's become. And all those folks are just characters. Skip Bayless is just a character. He's unlikable, but he's just a character. And they understand that because they're getting huge checks and they don't mind what anybody thinks of them because at the end of the day, they're very rich people. It's amazing how money soothes all that over, huh? So the bottom line is at the end of the day, we all have the power to just not turn it on. I don't watch any of their shows. I watch games. But I don't listen to them usually. I usually mute them. Depends on who's calling it. What's up, Jason Bender? I'd love to have Mike Holmgren on the show. That'd be awesome. Tell him we'd love to have him. We've had Dom Capers on the show. He was not this show, but on the radio show. He was, I think, your defensive kind of an analyst at one time. Yeah. Trying to think in Packer lore, who have we had on the show? I can't remember if we had any Packer folks over the years. We'd love to have Mike Holmgren. That'd be awesome. I love to talk to coaches like that who are no longer doing it about how they built it, how they see the game today. I think it's an interesting, very interesting dig into the generations, I guess, of coaches. I think the game's made a lot more complicated than it needs to be. So, yeah, Mike Holmgren would be great. Great coach. Very intelligent guy, too. Very intelligent guy. So next week we have Phil Steele on Tuesday. I believe Marty and Rags next week. We had a development yesterday about that. Trying to get Davon Morgan on, head coach at Bluefield. Had an interaction with him yesterday. We're trying to work out all these things. So next week could be a really big week of really cool, informative, and entertaining conversations. And today is going to be great with Bob Black and with Coach Foster and with Dwight Vick. It's a lot of good stuff, man. Who would I say is the most popular person and biggest name you've had the opportunity to interview? For me, throughout the history of the show, that's a good question. John Wooden for me, because I was UCLA lifer. He was promoting a book, and this happened about 4 years before he passed. I want to say it was 2004, 2005. I had been working on that a long time. But I think Coach Wooden, for me, that's the only time I've been in awe going into an interview. And I remember talking to my producer saying, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. But he was wonderful. He was wonderful. And we kept him on. And once he realized I knew a lot of the history. Yeah, Coach died in 2010. So I want to say Low Country, it was probably 2005, something like that. Most popular person? Wow, that's a good question. Most popular person. I don't It wasn't interviewing Godzilla. Well, Godzilla stopped calling. He can't figure out YouTube, Wayne. I mean, we had Charles Barkley on the golf course. It was so cool. I don't know. Most popular. We had all those NFL Hall of Famers, and John Elway and Barry Sanders and people like that. That didn't Tony Gwynn. Lou Brock. Lou Brock came on the show back at the old radio show. I don't know. I have to think about that. I just don't. It depends on, what people think are popular. And Nick Saban was on the show as the head coach at LSU. And I guess that's when Coach Elmo was there. He was awesome. He was just awesome. So wait a minute, I got to see this. So I just got a video notice that a Bigfoot. Oh, where did it go, man? Bigfoot was up a tree or something. It was a new video. Bigfoot held up in a tree. Here we go. It's clearly just a statue. I'm going to show you this. Oh, wait a minute, he's moving. I mean, it's clearly AI.
It's okay.
Guy's pretty calm. Here you go. Bigfoot held up in a tree. Can y'all see that? Watch it. Listen to the guy. Oh.
I see you, buddy.
He's pretty calm.
It's okay.
The Bobby Bowden interviews were, yeah. Bobby Bowden we had him on twice a year. Got to meet him, got a relationship with him. and his, when the word was fashionable, his secretary. And he would come on once during the season, and he would come on once in the off season, and he would just talk about hunting and fishing throughout this area. Talked about all sorts of great things. I enjoyed those very much. Very, very much. He was a really good man. Really good man. It's cool you remember those, Thunder. Trying to think. That's a good question. Man, that's a really good question. When the radio show was on for the first time, we carried sports on that station, and it was a Fox Sports Radio. So you had access as an affiliate, and that's how you got these folks. Stephen A. Smith at the time was with Fox. Troy Aikman came on, and he was cool. But it was crazy. All you had to do was just reach out. You just explained where you were, what was your affiliation, who would be doing the interview, how long, can you record it? Yes. Bart, if they're live, are you okay to make sure yeah, we're good. We're good. And Barkley was a little late, but he'd been playing golf and he had been drinking, and it was it was really good. He was really good. But that's all you had to do back then. It's not that way now, but everybody wants to get paid, or I'll come on your show. How much? I get Greenberg a lot. Yeah, Reggie Jackson sort of during the game. That's still the broadcasting highlight. That's still the game action highlight right there. That's one of those that about 2 innings in, you're looking over and Reggie Jackson's talking to you, and in your mind you're going, is this happening? So yeah, Ken Griffey Sr., he was on. The dad from Field of Dreams, he was on, at the end. Dad, you want to have a catch? I can't think of the actor's name. He was on. But Reggie Jackson was 4 innings of baseball broadcasting bliss. That was cool. And then we started talking about his acting career, and he loved it because we had gotten comfortable with one another. And I remember after the 3rd inning, he goes, "I'll tell you what, you okay if I'll never forget. We're sitting there during the break, and he goes, you okay if I hang on for one more inning?" Nah, Reggie, we had a deal. 3, get out of here. And then in the 4th inning, we talked about, I just looked at it and I went, so were you really going to kill the queen? But what was so great about that exchange, he knew exactly what I was doing, and he just started going. He goes, "Rick, I was under mind control. That wasn't me, okay?" And we talked about him as a sideline reporter, if you will, on the Battle of the Network Stars. You don't believe me? Go look it up. And you know what? He was terrific. He talked about Howard Cosell. It was awesome. Wayne, I don't know if you know this, but Reggie Jackson's pretty cool. And if you get to hang out with him, man, can you imagine being a Reggie Jackson fan and not getting to hang out with him? Sorry. That's my personal jab to Wayne. If I'd have known you then, you could have just come right up to the press box. But John Wooden's the only time I've been in just awe. Like, What's up, Tim? Tim on our professional door text line. Who has been complete assholes? Doug Peterson, head coach at Boise State. Massive toolbox. I'm just going to come right out and say it. He, before the Tech Boise State bowl game, he acted like he was doing us a huge favor. And then I got a bunch of short answers, and he didn't know it at one time. He thought he was talking to, I guess, his SID, and he thought he had it muted, and he said something like, I don't care about anybody in that. I don't care about anybody from Tech. I don't care about anybody. Why am I doing this? I'm like, okay. He was a toolbox. I really got to be honest. There haven't been a whole lot. Of people like that. There were coaches who were more to the point because they're coaches, but they weren't jerks. They were just coaches. He was the toolbox. Yeah, Doug Peterson. Is that his name? No, that was the quarterback. What was Boise State's coach's name? Went to Washington. See? You see, Morris? Yeah, right. Can you imagine being a Reggie Jackson fan and hanging out with him? It's true. To see Reggie naked. Yeah, having Reggie and Billy Martin, which he talked about his relationship with Billy. He did. He goes, I really love Billy Martin. Chuck Foreman, yeah. I'm going to reach out to Chuck again. I found all of his. It's weird you say that, Wayne. I looked and I kept all of his info. I thought it got buried. I'm going to reach out and see if he would join us. He was great. Yeah, he wants to barbecue. We talked about well-prepared meats. The former Minnesota Vikings. Great. Chris Peterson. I kept saying Doug. It's Chris Peterson. Yeah. Utter toolbox. And I don't care if he sees this. He was putting down our region. He was putting down our area. I don't know if I've ever pulled harder for Tech in a game than I did that game after that interview. Brian, what's up, brother? The Boise State game is still one that stings. Yeah, I know. I have a joke. What's up, Schnoozle? What happens if someone kills you, homie? A homicide. That's pretty funny. Schnoozle. Oh, yeah, I love those uniforms they wore against Boise State. Again, I'd have to sit down and think about it, but I don't remember anybody standing out as being a bad dude other than him. I'm trying to think. The Saban interview was great because I was told the SID, he was Nick Saban. He was starting to build up that reputation, right? So the SID is like, look, Coach doesn't mind doing it. He's playing the Hokies. He wants people to hear him in that market, blah, blah, blah. Of course, Tech beat him here. But he goes, 5 minutes, man. I said, hey, that's great. I said, would he cut us a liner? He goes, yeah, I don't think he can do that contractually, right? I said, hey, I understand. I was just happy to get him. So it was a recorded interview, and it was the day before we were going to air it. And it was after his regular interview session there in Baton Rouge. And sure enough, SID calls the studio. Hey, Coach is here. You ready to go? Yeah, I'm ready. We're sitting there. We're ready. And I had done a lot of research about his history and some of his prior coaches and his lineage through there. We talked about Coach Hicks. And when I started bringing up Coach Hicks in the West Virginia days, this was no longer an interview. These were two guys talking about his climb. And I'm telling you, it was wonderful. Wonderful. And we ended up, it was so funny. I was told 5 minutes. I bet you the interview lasted 20 minutes. Hey, Mo in Parisburg. My least favorite broadcaster. I don't like Herb Street either. I think he doesn't say anything. I don't like Chris Fowler. He's a terrible play-by-play guy. Sean McDonough is my favorite. If SpongeBob gets mad, will he be sponged? Snoozle, keep them clean. I like your jokes. Please subscribe. But anyway, Coach Saban was great. And then at the end, I said, you know what? What the hell? We've been talking 20 minutes. Coach, would you mind cutting a liner for the show? Could you just say this? He goes, yeah, let me get a pen. This is Coach Nick Saban, this is the head football coach of this is Nick Saban, head football coach of the LSU Tigers. I think he said Bengal Tigers. He did. And you're listening to Big Dog Sports Talk with Rick Watson on W, whatever it was then. Oh, very cool, Mo. Yeah, Rags is back next week. Talked to him yesterday at length. We're going to work that out next week. Hey, T-Bird, what's up, brother? 5 3/4 inches of rain in your gauge. Awesome. We do need more. That's good, though. That's a good start. I did notice yesterday on my lunchtime river walk down at Deadman, the water table looked stronger. I don't know if it's normal or where it should be. It's not, but that was cool. Yeah, the Jack Young bloodliner. I don't know, man. I don't think so. This is Jack Youngblood here. No, we're not. And you're listening to the Big Dog on Sports Talk. No, we're not. Take 2. Yeah, I don't think I have those anymore, man. I have to look and see. They may be gone. May be gone. If Chuck Norris punches the ground, the earth will split in half. Well, yeah, now that he's no longer with us. That was a fun night. The Hall of Famers, yeah. With Brian Brubaker, my producer, in 2004. The Elway Barry Sanders induction. Carl Eller. Big Bob Brown. It's a great class. Great dudes, man. We picked Paul Warfield, the former Browns and Dolphins wide receiver, up from the ground because he had drank so much he fell. We were heading back, and then it was set up really cool. You had a nice little village there of the Hall of Famers. Gatewood is still way down and grass is growing in the coves. Okay, that's progress. This has been the driest T-Bird I can remember in a long, long time. If Chuck Morris played Minecraft, he could break bedrock. Yeah, saw Rick Springfield the second day. We look over at just craziness, how things happen. I think back some of the things that's happened during my career. Then I think, should I put that in a book? And I think nobody's going to read that book. But yeah, we look over this big fence. Rick Springfield. Rick Springfield appearing. Really? Huh. Well, Brian, we should go to that, shouldn't we? Sure enough, we just got in. I don't remember if we hopped the fence or whatever. And we're sitting there at this table, great food, and these women were going absolutely bonkers. And he sounded great. You know what? He's a really good guitar player. People think, Rick Springfield, the guy's got some talent, or he wouldn't have continued. He's still playing. And we got to see a Rick Springfield concert. It was awesome for nothing. Right there in Canton, Ohio. And I guess he was in for the Hall of Fame weekend, and he knew there'd be a lot of people there, and there were. Little amphitheater, kind of a half amphitheater set up around. It was really neat, really neat. If a tree lost its leaves, will it be leafed? Reggie Jackson naked, married, wonderful Janet, ball 186. What's next, big dog? World peace. Oh, Morris. Still working toward the Bigfoot interview. Yeah, T-Bird. Is he 78? Oh, my God. Good for him, man. Gotta love Jesse's Girl. Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you what, Brian, when he played Jesse's Girl, I thought we were going to see naked women jump on the stage. I really did. I mean, it was, yeah. Place went absolutely nuts. No, he was good. He was good. I have hair, Amelia. It's just the light, kind of. I mean, I just cut it. See, I've got some. See? You see the light right here, Amelia? See how it's okay. No, you're fine. I keep it short because I fought for 7 years, and I've kept it short then, and I've always kept it short since then. So no worries. I don't mind. It's no big deal. Glad to have you. Please subscribe. You're fine. You're fine. Obese versus skinny doesn't matter because the quarter pounder attacks. Wow, is that so? Wayne just sent an updated picture of Rick Springfield. That's how he looks at 78. Really? It's got to be on synthetics, I'm guessing. Look at that. That's Rick Springfield today. You know, it's awesome that he's still doing. You could tell that was his passion. Like, I know he acted and he was in soap opera, but you could tell music is what he really loves. That's pretty cool, man. Wow, Rick Springfield looks great. Glad you found us, Amelia. Please subscribe and hang out. You don't have to leave ever. Nobody has to leave. Moore says, I'm going to chase that Sasquatch down, bring him to you, Shelburne's help. You owe me and Big Ron. I do. Mr. Foot, may I call you Biggie? What was it like being filmed walking by a woodpile? Well, we're going to find out if that happened, I guess, because October, apparently this big reveal's coming from capturing Bigfoot that the Patterson film was fake. My thing is, that film is the most watched 59 seconds of footage in the history of film. If this thing were so revealing, why does it take this long to finally get it on a streaming service? That's all I'm asking. I don't know the process from when you create something as an independent. They showed it in March down in Texas, and there's this guy called Harryman Road, and he's saying, hey, it's fake, and anybody who disagrees with me is stupid. Well, I want to see it. And I'm the first one to say, if we find out, if we look at that, and they say it's fake, and it's the same thing, and we see that it's the same suit, then I'll go, all right, then it likely was a hoax. It doesn't disprove Bigfoot, but it destroys, it destroys the most famous footage that we've had. But I don't want to just give into it. Yeah. Hey, morning, Rodney. No worries, Amelia. I wish you would. Maybe you can talk to your mom. No worries. I hope you got a hold of Coach okay. He's a really good dude. Philip Reese is a good dude. By the way, we're carrying Blacksburg football here on the channel. Got a couple of, well, I can tell you right now who's calling it. We have Landon Weaver and Russell Davis from Bill Ross SMA program. They're going to be calling Blacksburg football this year on the channel. And thanks to Bill, he thanks me all the time for using his folks. And he says, Rick, you have no idea what this means to them. And I say, well, no, it's great. I've known Bill for a long, long time. We've been friends a long, long time, and I would not think to go anywhere else. So anyway, I'm looking forward to see it. We need to get all your regulars together on Zoom during the 1-year anniversary show. Did I watch the World Cup? I tried to watch America, Amelia, in the World Cup. And then I went and watched the end of the final when it was 0-0. And I was like, are you kidding me? It's 0-0. Christian says the TSL staff did their ACC order of how teams will finish. They had Tech 8. The way I look at Tech football this year, okay, I said 7-5, right? I'll be much less surprised if they win 8 or 9 games than I will if they win less than 7. If they win less than 6 or 7, I'll be very surprised. So I think they're going to probably finish higher than I said, and then everybody can yell at me. Oh, thanks, Snoozy. Snoozle? But yeah, if they win 8 or 9, I'm not going to be shocked. If they win 5, just 5, I'd be shocked. I'd be a little surprised. I won't say shocked, but I'd be a little surprised. Did that Dave Matthews interview make the top 100? No, it did not. Hey, I saw some posts from him yesterday, people highlighting him going around saying he hates literally anybody who disagrees with him politically. Don't come watch my concerts. See, what are you accomplishing there? Don't worry, Dave. I wasn't coming anyway. But I don't get it. Imagine not giving someone a chance to enlighten your life just because you disagree with them. Imagine just saying, nah, sorry. Virginia Tech doesn't have enough talent, elite talent yet. Overton's the only real elite athlete on the team. Well, I want to see this year's team. I want to see what they look like. I think there's no doubt the talent will be better. We'll talk with Coach Foster about that here coming up. Bud Foster here today, by the way, 7:30. And we're going to talk about the Bear defense, and we're going to talk about Ohio State because I want to. Then Dwight Vick. We are sports and entertainment, Bis and Trispa. Please subscribe. You're welcome anytime. We just don't allow any derogatory comments toward people, race, religion, any of that stuff. In other words, don't come on here and be an idiot. Not you, just in general. So I want to ask Coach Foster about that. And I'm going to ask him about his trip. They were overseas. Mo on the professional door text line says, as long as Tech beats UVA. I had them beating UVA. Yes, I did. I did pick them to beat UVA. I believe that, yes, Kenny, how are you on the professional door text line? I believe Ethan Grunkmeyer will have a really strong start to his Tech career. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, Luke Reynolds seems like an elite player. The Brown kid out of Duke looks special in the slot, doesn't he, as a kick returner? He's going to return a few kicks for touchdowns this year. What's up, Zachary? Good to see you, man. I can't watch football right now. Watching media days has me looking at kids in suits and hearing PR coach responses. Just absolutely tired of the BS. Yeah, I get that 100% because right now I don't have any desire to go to media days anymore. As somebody who went to a lot of them in the Big South and over at Tech and the ACC, whatever, they are very choreographed. It is all the same information. So I get you feeling that way. And welcome, Zachary. If you haven't been here before, please subscribe. That's a good take. It's a really good take. I get it. And I guess for me too, the fact that they're making so much money, it's kind of hard to sit there. Like hearing Venables made me sick. Yeah, well, I get it. I get it. I thought yesterday, this bothered me yesterday. And it really kind of surprised me a little bit. Because if you didn't see it, yesterday, John Sumrall, the new coach at Florida, went off on a media member because his phone went off or something during the interview. And then he said, "You'd be kicked out of our team meeting. You're lucky I'm not going to throw this podium right now. That drives me crazy." I don't know why he felt like he needed to do that. The guy looks like he's a little bit over his head already. He's gotten into the Florida culture, which Todd Grantham has warned us about. What it felt like. And we'll ask Bob Black about that. I got to send Bob an interview here, a request. Bob's thinking, where's my interview request, Rick? Where's my email request? Sorry. You all got me off on a tangent here, so I all right, Bob Black will join us. We'll talk to him about all these things. Wayne says, still building Christian. I'm hoping with strength and conditioning, Tech develops into a talent I did 25 years ago with a bunch of 3 stars. Development, the only problem with that, though, Wayne, development time is no longer can be assumed because they're going to be in the same spot. And I'm not sure this coaching staff has those type of people on it yet. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. In the old days, you wanted your new quarterback to have a hot start. Now you're worried that if that happens, he'll be snatched up in the portal. Oh, yeah. Quarterback has a big year. He's got 2 years left, and he's not where he wants to be. Power League or in the SEC, you better believe it. Hey, T-Bird named his Chihuahua Tico. I didn't have Tico on my bingo card, but good for you. In honor of his pop Chico. Zach talking about Sumrall. What a jackass. Florida finds the worst coaches. Yeah, that was weird. Look, granted, maybe he forgot about his phone. I've done that before. I've forgotten that he decided to throw his podium. You can go see the sound clip. It's ridiculous. Oh, good. The sequel to Days of Thunder. So is 65-year-old Tom Cruise going to be driving now? Is he going to be the team owner, I wonder? Don't know. Again, Hollywood just regurgitating it and spitting it out, right? Joining us now on the program, as we've been talking about, is that gentleman. He is the longtime voice of the Richmond Spiders, Bob Black. What's up, Bob? How are you? Good morning.
Rick, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, we're hanging in there, man. Did the early coffee work? I know I got you up a little. Are you good? Hey.
Rick, I've always said I can be a morning person if I can have my coffee and my couch and do everything from there. So we're pretty close to that this morning.
Good.
So I'm raring and ready to go, man.
All right. Well, thanks for jumping on, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. But I saw this happening this week, and I said, I need to talk to Bob about all this. It's disturbing what we see at ESPN. I saw that graphic where 5 people are making like 150 million, so everybody else is expendable. They bring on these properties like the NFL Network, and then they fired like 40, 50 people behind the scenes there yesterday. I mean, what is going on? It's sad to see some of these folks who've been loyal and good on the air for years, and they find out during their shift, or they find out on X, they're not even being told directly what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, ESPN, and this has been happening for a while, that has gone from being, the newsworthy source to being the star-powered source, right? I mean, you mentioned it, the handful of people that are making exorbitant amount of money there at the expense of everyone else. And I think you made a great point. We've all read the headlines, Carl Ravitch and Ryan Clark, Tom Pelissero, David Lloyd, names that we're familiar with because we watch ESPN. But man, Rick, it's the 40 or 50 people behind the scenes that work their butts off every day. They're not making anywhere near that kind of money. And now their lives, their families have been uprooted by this as well. I think this one you can blame a lot on the acquisition of the NFL Network and the cost to go along with that. And I think when that happened, a lot of people knew this day was coming. Nobody knew who it was going to be. And again, the star power is what's making the headlines this morning. But I think you nailed it. There were a lot more people impacted by this than just those star names.
Agreed. And it is sad. And, Ravitch is showing a lot of class, and they've been a struggling product for me for a long time. I don't like any of that stuff that they're committed to. Look, I know I'm out of their generation, I guess. I'm not their target audience any longer, and that's pretty clear, and that's fine. That's fine. But it just doesn't seem like a smart business model. It really hasn't since Disney took over, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, the stars at the top of the show now are guys like Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee. Obviously, I guess Scott Van Pelt, I still think is one of the old school, news journalist kind of guys, although they've certainly made him into a celebrity as well, are probably at the top of that list that remain, I guess, untouchables in this whole thing. But I think we've seen beyond that, nobody's untouchable right now at ESPN, and they chop some pretty big time salaries. So, I think there might be swimming in a little bit of, red ink here, Rick. And this is a little bit of let's push the panic button and see if we can get that ledger back into the black a little bit. But man, again, I still feel for the masses that got laid off behind the scenes. I think most of those quote unquote star power people are going to land, somewhere, and in some cases relatively quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And they've purchased all these rights, and they've paid so much, an exorbitant amount of money, way too much for the NBA. And I guess at some point, are they not thinking about the plan going forward because they didn't get the advertising rates they thought they were going to get? So they took a hit there. It's like they almost didn't plan for this because they wanted to be involved in everything. And when you're budgeting and you just keep spending, you're going to be in the red, aren't you?
Yeah. And I think some of it might be a look now to the future. I mean, obviously in the rearview mirror is the NFL Network, things like that. But I think they want to bid on some of these major properties that are going to come up. I think you mentioned the NBA. I think college football is probably the big creature in the room here, because who knows where that's going, right? I mean, who knows what those rights fees are going to be moving forward. I think 2030 is the next kind of demarcation line of when a lot of these rights agreements expire with the Big Ten and the SEC, Power 5 conferences. So I do think some of this was a look into the future of, okay, what are we going to have to bid on and where we're going to get the money to do it? I would think college football is probably at the top of their list, knowing the properties that they already have at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's by far the second most watched sport in this country across the board, right? I mean, the NFL prints money. Did you see the NFL graphic yesterday that
no,
they made $14.5 billion? I think that was more, profited that many that much money, and it out profited the other leagues combined. I think I saw.
Wow.
I think it was
Yeah. And they'll obviously want to continue with their NFL properties, certainly the NFL Network, but they're going to want, the live games, the Super Bowl coming to ESPN in conjunction with ABC, and who knows what the advertising rates are going to be. That was another great point that you made, is they got to be looking at that also. Like, okay, we're paying out all this money to put all these games on the air. Where's the income coming from? For now, I think there are advertisers out there willing to pay some of these exorbitant costs, but I don't know how sustainable that is into the future.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't know. It's just disturbing to see it happening. And, when we know what's going on with newspapers as well across the country because of digital media and all these things. And I don't know, you and I both came up and it was a different world then. And it was just, we appreciated whatever we could get. Things seemed to mean more. And now when you see all those physical medias being taken away, and then people who were actually good at their job taken away, man, it's troubling. It really is.
And here's the other factor in this, and that is, no, they're not marketing for you and me. Let me throw me into that group, probably even ahead of you into that group. They're not marketing for us, but people, including us, get our news from different manners now than we did. I will give ESPN a little bit of credit there. I do think they're trying to keep up with that aspect of this, but that's costly, right? They've got new platforms, ESPN Plus, they've got the mobile apps, they've got the podcasts of some of their talent. So they're trying to keep up with how people are getting their sports news. And that's a hard race to win right now also, but that's timely and costly as well. So it's an ever-changing medium, and you got to have the money to stay in the game.
I don't know if you watched any of the media. Somebody was bringing up media days, and you and I have been to our share of media days. And it used to be a lot different than it is now, because now I think it's more structured for the TV sound clips for the networks. Like the SEC media is dominated by the SEC network. The ACC media day was dominated by the ACC network. You don't have that local feel. Do you think, well, I guess the answer is going to be no, but I think it loses something when these media days are happening and the local media kind of gets shuffled out of this more and more. What do you think? You think we're ever going to see the trend go back the other way?
Yeah, probably to some degree, but I think you're right. Because again, you can get your news and your information from so many sources. You don't have to wait for the morning paper or even for the online story to appear on the media day. You've got it right there. You can watch it. You can watch it live, whether it's SEC or ACC, all of those. And the other thing that I found really interesting about the media days, maybe almost in a boring way, is how dominated they've become, not as much by the coaches and players, although they have. I mean, did you see the media scrum around, James Franklin at Virginia Tech? That was like 50 deep to talk to him. But the commissioners have kind of become part of the media days story now. And I think that's a shame. That's not what the media days were for, but everybody wants to hear from Jim Phillips now. Everybody wants to hear from Greg Sankey. Sankey's making the headlines at SEC Media Day ahead of, Lane Kiffin and what Alabama's doing and all of that. And, that takes us into a more of a corporate world where, we need the soundbite, to your point, of the commissioner of the conference. And, but that's what people want to know about. Like, what's the realignment structure? Is the SEC really going to leave the NCAA? It's all those off the field, plots and twists and turns, when you and I both know in the old days, it was, let's talk to the coach and the quarterback and the linebacker. Let's talk some football. That's certainly not the exclusive content of these media days anymore.
Yeah, that's a great point. And with Sankey, I just get so tired of the SEC's posturing. I mean, Big Ten's won the last 3 titles. They haven't been part of it. They're still the most watched league. They have the most watched team. Alabama by far gets the most views. I get their pomposity to a certain degree, but man, all he did was talk about that again and the breakaway. And then they asked put the coaches in a weird situation. I just get so tired every time he's up there talking about leaving and creating their own thing.
Yep. And that's a great point as well. He speaks first, of course, the commissioner.
Of course.
So now the questions to the coaches become related off of what the commissioner said. So now you get the coaches talking about things other than football. Now, they obviously did talk football as well, but there was a full storyline, like you said, the tiresome story of the SEC leaving the NCAA. What's that going to look like? That kind of thing. So I do think, it pushed some of the the real media out of the way to talk about those issues that we seemingly talk about nonstop. I feel for you on that one, Rick.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, have you been hanging around watching the Spiders in their summer practice? I've been watching some of the Highlanders. It's amazing how much work they get done. And speaking of how the way things have changed, we had Coach Lind on yesterday from Mount St. Mary's. Remember the days when coaches couldn't even go on the same floor with kids, even if they were there working out, right? They couldn't even walk out onto the floor. It's amazing how it's all changed.
I think that is one of the positives, at least when I talked to our coach, to Chris Mooney, about the deregulation of the NCAA and there are no rules or guidelines anymore, is the amount of time that they now get with their players in the summer. And to the point that Chris has made for the last several years, he's stopped just shy of saying we get too much time with them now in the summer, but they've had to space it out, and they've done non-basketball activities, and they've given them days off at a time because they just have plenty of time, even in this day and age where you need it because of the transfers, you got to mesh everybody together. So I do think that's a positive. Long-winded to your question. Yes, I've been popped in, watched them, several times. These practices still aren't the same as what you're going to see in October, certainly, but you can get a pretty good feel at this point for what they're doing. In our case, there's a lot of just playing games, playing pickup, playing, that 4-on-4 or 5-on-5, and they're installing parts of the system, obviously, but they just want them out there playing so they get used to playing with each other because so many of them are new. But I do think that's been a good thing. For the past several years, we've done a series of interviews with the transfers specifically to kind of introduce them to the fan base and introduce them to you and me, the broadcasters who have to get to know them. And I've really kind of enjoyed that. We have 6 transfers, so we've done those 6 conversations, and that has been very enjoyable to kind of get to know them a little bit in the summertime when you can let your hair down a little bit. I have enjoyed that part of it. But I know like Richmond's getting ready to let their guys go for the next 3 weeks. I mean, I think they finish up tomorrow and then they come back when school starts in late August.
Well, and that's the thing too. I mean, it's a good time for everybody to kind of get acclimated with one another, teammates, new teammates, because this is the way it's going to be. So this time that's allotted is more important than ever before just because of the rules we have in place. We know at Radford and Richmond, we're going to have a big turnover at roster most years, right? So that's good to have that.
I'll tell you, something that's happened with us, and this happened a little bit the last couple of years, but I really felt good about this and very surprised the last couple of days. And I think some of this was by invitation. Some of this was just guys coming back. But they've practiced with Spider alums of the past 5 or 6 years. And we had a huge group come back, probably 10 of them. Most of them, again, are transfers, but they came back to this spot amongst their list of transfers to practice. And there are pictures on social media on the Richmond athletic pages of all the guys that came back. And there were probably about 10 of them that have played for the Spiders in the past, 6 years, maybe 6, 7 years, most of whom are still playing overseas, a couple trying to get a shot in the NBA. But it was really cool to see those guys, and they were out on the court with the new players. I think that, I've said this to you a lot, that teams don't build programs anymore, just next team.
Yes.
This was a case for once where I actually saw a program because so many of these guys came back. And as I looked around at them, almost all of them were transfer guys, not all of them. There were a couple from still the old era of, 4 or 5 years, COVID years, 6 years, all at the same school. But that was very gratifying to me to see that number of guys come back. It was just fun to watch them play against the guys who will be this year's Spiders.
How have you talked to Coach much about the A10? It's such a good league. My Lord, it is. It's got to be. Is it you think it's the premier mid-major league now, or it's got to be one of the top 2, right?
Yeah, I think it's right up there. I think the Missouri Valley Conference is right up there. I don't know where you would put, I'm trying to think what other conferences, but yes, I would say after you get past the top, the FBS version of the Power 4, throw the Big East in there. Obviously, I think the Atlantic 10 has been like 6th or 7th. When they rank the conferences during the course of the season, which puts them, like you said, either 1 or 2 in the Atlantic 10. I still think it's going to be a dominated VCU, St. Louis, Dayton. But I think there are some teams that made some waves this offseason and made it pretty well known, Rick, that they're spending some money and they've gone out and got players. And, that's now the name of the game. And I think we talked about this last time. I think Richmond has upped its game. I would say they're not in the upper tier of spending, but they're in the next tier, which is an improvement. I think they were, closer to the bottom than they were to the top last year. I think probably they're closer to the top than they are to the bottom this year. But I think those three teams traditionally have been the ones that come off the tongue first. I think George Washington has spent some money in the Atlantic 10. I think Davidson has done a pretty good job. I think Richmond has as well. And then there'll be a sleeper, it somewhere, whether that's a St. Joe's or LaSalle or somebody like that. Somebody's going to be a sleeper, hopefully, because that's what makes it fun, right?
Well, right.
We'll pop to the top of the conference.
Well, and it's a league that's dedicated to basketball. So those monies are going to basketball programs. It's a basketball-driven league, and that's what I like so much about it. And same thing with the Missouri and even the Big South. It's basically a basketball-driven league. You don't see that very often today in a world dominated in college athletics by football.
No, not at all. And, that was a reason that the Atlantic 10 made that move, that the Richmond made that move 25 years ago or so. And, hey, to your other point, there's a new commissioner in the Atlantic 10, Dan Leibovitz, and he's a basketball guy. He came up as a basketball coach. So he is truly a basketball guy, and the Atlantic 10 continues to be a basketball conference on both the men's and the women's side. I might add the A10 on the women's side did something I thought was really great. I hope the men will follow suit. They're doing season opening doubleheaders and have joined forces with the Missouri Valley and I think the Ivy and one other conference, and are playing, doubleheaders in two different sites, at Richmond in the A10 and at Belmont in the Missouri Valley. And it's creating some quality games right off the tip, opening week of the season. I hope the men are able to do something along those lines and, bolster the scheduling for some of these teams.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see more too? I wanted to ask you, there's all these rumors about the SoCon and the Big South. They're going to start doing some things. You think like the A10 eventually, Missouri, you think you're going to start seeing more pairings of these leagues, mid-major leagues like that, to help out with these non-conference schedules that the P4s may not be as motivated to play any longer? I
do. I absolutely do. It's something a lot of us have kind of called for years now. Just before COVID hit, the A10 had one with the Mountain West. And then COVID, blew that up. And for whatever reason, it never came back again. But I think you're going to see that. SoCon, Big South, that's a good one. And try and get all the teams involved. I think the A10 is doing it with a couple of teams this season. I left George Mason out of my list earlier, but they're going to be good as well. So I think they're doing it with select teams. Probably has ruffled the feathers of the unselected teams. But
sure.
At least it's a start, right? And I hope it continues, because that'll get us some better games. Because I don't think fans are going to tolerate, these really, really weak schedules that we're seeing, particularly when they're paying the money they're paying to get into the building.
Matthew asks, hey guys, do you think that we'll ever see an in-state tournament with the mid-majors like we've talked about? You and I've talked about this in the past. I think you even brought it up years ago. What a great idea. You can leave Tech and Virginia out of it, right? You think we'll ever get like some kind of event that you talk about helping with scheduling and quality opponents? You could really set up a nice looking round robin, couldn't you?
So I will localize this and go into the way back machine here. But we used to have that here in Richmond. It was the Richmond Times-Dispatch.
That's right.
Holiday tournament. Now, that always did include Virginia or Virginia Tech each year. I don't know if you're going to convince them to do it again. And then it was always Richmond and VCU and another state team, whether that was, Old Dominion, James Madison, Radford, whoever it might have been. And it was very good, very popular, but apparently not popular enough. And certainly the Virginias and Virginia Techs of the world eventually backed out of it. So you lost your big draw. But we've talked about it for years here in Richmond. They're finally getting ready to tear down the godforsaken Richmond Coliseum. So right now, we don't have a building to house a tournament like that. There's plenty of talk that they're going to build one a little bit north of the city and be a 17,000, 18,000 seat arena. When they do that, I would think that's a no-brainer, Rick, is to bring – and I don't even mean just 4. I think you could bring 8 teams together.
Yes.
Whatever you wanted to do, to enhance schedules and play it in that building. It'd be a great way to open that building, whenever that happens, 28, 29, somewhere around there. But yeah, I hope, I count, I don't know about you, but when our schedule comes out, I kind of count the number of state games.
I know, me too.
Yeah. So I would love to see something like that. I think that can happen. I don't know if you're going to get to include a Virginia or Virginia Tech.
No.
You might. It's an important recruiting base, and if they do it in Richmond, but wherever they want to do it, I would be waving that flag with you. Absolutely.
And I think fans would come. I think it would draw a crowd. I know how much it would help us at Radford if we could get 3 games like that guaranteed every year, no matter who it was.
Yep.
That helps the coaching staffs out a whole heck of a lot. I know
and
that.
Maybe it is a start the season thing that way. The Times Dispatch thing used to be a holiday thing, used to be around Christmas. But maybe it is a great way to start the season. Hit them with something powerful to start it off. And that's what the Atlantic 10 and the Missouri Valley are doing. Those women's games are the first week of the season, and they're going to give some quality competition. And a game like that probably helps you when you get to January and February. It probably doesn't hurt you that much if the teams that you select, and it's so hard to know who's really going to be good, but I think you could have a decent idea of it. I think it would be a great way to open schedules as opposed to even Thanksgiving or Christmas. But I'm with you. I would take it any way we could get games like that. I'm happy to come to Radford. I don't know if that's going to happen, but
I would love it.
Certainly be happy to come and get the hospitality of the Highlanders.
Well, Bob, listen, it's great to catch up once again, man. Thanks for jumping on. And
let's do it again. Love doing it.
Let's do it again next month, brother.
All right, I'm off to my second cup of coffee. Have a great rest of the show.
Enjoy. You see that? I made you get 2 cups of coffee this morning.
Love it. I'm raring and ready. It's going to be a good day. Going to be a good day.
All right, brother. Take care, man. Have a good weekend.
You got it.
All right, there you go. Bob Black, the longtime voice of the Richmond Spiders here on the program. Always terrific to catch up with him. Great at what he does, and I love it. I think we should do that. And from a mid-major perspective, it would make a lot of sense. Don't forget, Professional Door Incorporated, reach out to Travis at 674-0008. And again, $40 off right now if you call in July. Tell them you heard us talking about it, of your preventative maintenance for your garage doors. Doesn't matter where you are, and you don't have to schedule it in July. Dwight Vick coming up here in about half an hour. He will join us. Joining us now on the program, we're very excited. He is the coach. It's been too long since I had a chance to sit down with Coach Foster. What's going on, man? Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Not sure he can. You got me, Coach? Can you hear me? Let's see here.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Okay. Let me see here. I can hear you, Coach, but you can't hear me. Let's see here. You look great. Tell you what, let me send him another invite here. Let's see. Muted, unmute mic. Okay. How about now, Coach? Let's see here. It's got your mic muted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
I can hardly hear you, though.
Yeah, I can hear you loud. I wonder why.
I don't know. I'm on my phone. I'm not on a computer, so that might have something to do with it. But I don't know why I can't hear you. I wonder if I put in earbuds, if that might make a difference.
It might, or you tell you what, I'll knock you out of the studio and rejoin here, and let's see if that works.
Do you want me to get out too? And
then hit that same link. Yeah. And if that doesn't work,
let's do this. Okay, I'll do that. All right.
Okay, let's try that. Okay, thanks. We'll get Coach on here in just a second. All right. There we go. Yeah, sometimes back-to-back interviews has caused that, so I think maybe that's what we're dealing with. I think Coach is fine. I think he's fine. But we're going to see how this goes this time. But I think you're right, Wayne. It's weird. I pay too much for this studio for that to be an issue. Way too much for this studio for that to be an issue. Let's try again.
There we go. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Coach? Sometimes that works, just rebooting, right?
Yeah, it's amazing how technology works, right? And they're worried about AI, right? We're still going to need some human touch.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Well, man, how's your summer? First of all, how was your trip? I mean, that sounded pretty cool.
Ireland was neat. I'd been to Dublin before for a couple days on a stopover. The only time I've been to Europe, but this time we went to kind of central Ireland, West Coast. There was a heat wave kind of coming through there. That was the start of everything. So it was like 80 degrees. It wasn't anything crazy, but to them, it was, unbearable. But no rain. But it was, the people were great. We saw some cool stuff, and I highly recommend it, though. I don't play golf anymore.
Yeah.
But they played 3 of the top golf courses in the world. They played the Open last year, and then in 2019, and then we stayed at a place for 3 days of property that they're hosting the Ryder Cup next year. It's called the Adair Manor, which you should look it up. It's like it was a residence at one time, and now they've turned it into this hotel. But it's like the number 1 place in the world. But they call it the Augusta of Europe. So that's how nice the place was, and the grounds were like that, So it was pretty special, though. It really was.
Is Ireland as green as you see it? Like when you see pictures or you see it on TV, I just picture everything being bright green, the grass and everything.
It was. But I will tell you, when you get out into the countryside, it's green, but it's a lot of rock. I mean, that's it's an island. So it's a lot of rock. And it's amazing. All their, the fence rows, all their properties are lined off with rock. So they couldn't cart that because of the slopes and things. But it was all handmade, all done that way. I mean, the man hours it took to do that, it was incredible. But it was unique, and it was a cool experience.
Well, amidst all your traveling and enjoying your summer, Coach, I know you've been going around, and Coach Franklin said it at the media kickoff. Tech's won the off season, right? Feels like they have. I thought it was an appropriate comment. A lot of good things happened, didn't it, for this program heading into the season, preparation for the season, anyway. Yeah,
well, there's a lot of momentum. Obviously, hiring James that was big for the program, for the institution, for the department. But he hit the ground running, had a great offseason from a recruiting standpoint. Now, obviously, a lot of those guys don't come until 2028 of January, this current recruiting class, which in a lot of circles is rated in the top 10 of the country. But they've had a great winter as far as in the weight room. And I will say this, Rick, the DNA has changed. I mean, James has changed. I mean, the look of the players were bigger, faster, stronger. He brought in, several players, obviously from the transfer portal, and guys that committed to Penn State that, signed with Virginia Tech. But Chuck Losey, the strength coach, and his staff, they have been phenomenal. The players have bought into the process. They had a really in competitive off-season from early morning workout session that led over into spring practice. But then I've been around a little bit this summer and sticking my head in the weight room here and there and watching them condition. And they're working very hard. He said they won the off-season and they bought into the off-season. Now, we've got a long way to go still, and it's a young football team. We've got a challenging schedule this year, in my opinion, but I think with this kind of football, if we can squeeze, people don't want to hear this, but we can get 7 or 8 wins out of this thing this year. I think that would be a heck of a year. But I do think in another year or two, this is going to be a program that's going to be consistently competing for the ACC and a 10-11 type win season, like a lot of our fans are accustomed to, and, a run that we made for several years, back in the day.
Coach, I thought you made a great point at the Blacksburg Sports Club. You talked about, the guys look good. Now you got to find football players, right? That's when you have to develop them, right? And that's what this process is about. You can walk into a building and win the look, but you got to find the guys that are willing to go out there and fight for you.
Yeah, that's a true statement, and we passed the look test, that's for sure. But that's where you saw spring ball, and I think you saw a group of talented athletes. Now, spring practice is not always the prettiest because you are evaluating a lot of people. You are putting them in positions and maybe for the first time or experiencing a call offensively or defensively or in the special teams for the first time. You're just trying to find that right fit. You're trying, like I said, try to get everybody in to be evaluated in a situation that they need to be. And but that's the thing that I know James is looking for, particularly on defense. We're looking for some erasers. That's always, as a former defense coordinator, I mean, that's the one thing I always look for too. I'm one of those guys that, boy, they could finish a play and something they wouldn't let a play get started. Offensively, wanting to be consistent, good up front. But find some playmakers, whether it's, at receiver spot or us being good enough up front to get some movement and creating some space for our running game, which helps everything else when it's all said and done. But I think the big question will be, for me, moving forward, is going to be how they zero in on their two deep, on the guys that are going to be the consistent players that you expect to play, that you expect to win with. I mean, It's one thing, this is not a participation, you don't get that trophy anymore. It's time to, play, put your big boy pads on and let's go play football. But I think that's the one thing I'll be curious to see as fall camp starts and unfolds, what the true two deep is, and you still need to have a fifth guy here or there, particularly if you start getting into playoffs and that type of thing, because I think the roster depth is critical. I mean, now that there's a potential to play 16 football games during the course of a season, that's a lot of football. And there can be a lot of attrition that goes on with injuries and things of that nature. And to have quality depth is important, but it's hard to get all the depth, the right reps to be consistently good, but I think that'll be the key for me. Is we saw a lot of talented players now zeroing in on who are your top, 44 football players offensively and defensively.
And I like, Coach, it sounds like I'm really going to like, I think Tech fans are going to like the offense that James Franklin likes to play, right? A lot of 12 personnel using the tight ends. When you were coaching, what kind of things was that? The kind of the offense? I know Coach Elmo said it drove him nuts over the years to see two tight ends street, and that was something that was much more difficult to prepare for than just watching somebody out in the spread. When you see all those guys like that can be a problem for you. And I like the fact that it sounds like that's what Tech's going to be running a lot.
Yeah, and I'll say this, and just to reiterate what Phil said, there's a lot of truth in that. The reason is because they can be multiple in all their formations. When you get into 12 personnel, and particularly if the tight ends are athletic, then all of a sudden you can get into 21 personnel. With BC used to be, they play a lot of 14 personnel, meaning one tight end, one running back, 4 tight ends. So they could be in 22, 23 personnel, which is kind of smash mouth type football. And that's where they were different for years. But now with the 12 personnel, you can be in 21 personnel. You can be in 11 personnel. You can be in true 12 personnel where you've got broad blocking surfaces. You can be in 10 personnel, that spread look. I know the BC was, you knew what you were going to get from them but they could spread you out, but then they would line up in a tight formation and just, try to outman you. And outflank you and create create tough edge situations for you, and then I remember probably one of our toughest matchups was we played Stanford in the Orange Bowl with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
and they and Andrew Luck, but they were a big 12 personnel group. They had Cody Fleener and who was Goddard, I think, was the other tight end.
Right.
And, you talk about, they were matchup problems. They were matchup problems for linebackers. They were matchup problems for safeties. But that was the same thing. You almost have to create a package that is almost a check with me type look to get into the right defense and defensive structure and coverage structure and run fit structure based off the person, off the formation, off the alignments, and because offenses do get they have tendencies when they get into certain looks and that type of thing. So, that's one thing that we always tried to do when we played a team like that had multiple tight ends, was maybe get into a package that we could adjust with them, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. When you look back, Coach, we talked about erasers. Coach Franklin talked about that. Can you remember a couple of guys immediately when you were out recruiting and when you saw a kid an opportunity that you said, that guy, I can identify him right now as going to potentially be one of those guys for us?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had a slew of them, you had Vince Hall was the first one, that comes to mind. Vince was, in my opinion, maybe one of the best football players I've ever coached. Now, didn't have an NFL career, had some, late career injuries in college that affected, his draft status and that type of thing and passing a physical. But as far as just a guy that would eliminate a play in a heartbeat, wasn't the fastest guy when you time him in the 40, but it was the fastest guy on the field. I remember we were playing West Virginia and we were beating the brakes off of them with Rich Rod, and then they finally put in Pat White. And that was the first time I'd seen Pat White, and they put him in, and who was the running back they had with him. But anyway, they were freshmen. They finally put him in. Thank goodness they didn't play him earlier in the game. But I remember like Pat taking off, and we had a guy. It was a blur, and I was thinking like, who is that? And it was Vince Hall.
Vince Hall.
I mean, and he was just that guy. He didn't waste steps. Xavier Deeby was a guy. Cam Chancellor was a guy because Cam was a great open field tackler for us. So when he played our safety, our rover spot, which was kind of a big free hitter, then our safety spot, those guys, I expected them to be around the football and be in the run fit. But Cam was a great open field tackler and a great finisher and such an intimidating force because when he tackled, he didn't just get him to the ground, used to be you could hear a good tackle. Now it's you see a good tackle. But when Cam hit you, you could hear a good tackle.
Right.
But we had several. Corey Moore was an eraser, obviously, too. Cornell Brown was an eraser, all at different spots, too. That's the cool thing. Brandon Flowers, Macho Harris were erasers, because they could lock people down, but they were also great tacklers in space. And, our boundary corners were really kind of our erasers, too, from a coverage standpoint, but also from because people tried to spread us out or go to trips and then try to nub us down on the backside and try to make our corners tackle. So that was critical for us. So those boundary corners, goes back to even D'Angelo Hall and Ike Charlton, some of those guys, Anthony Midget, those guys were erasers for us too. But I think we had them not every year, but we did have them every year at different spots, and tried to play to those strengths when it was all said and done.
Well, and just listening to you, Coach, that sounds like one of the keys to why you were so successful. A lot of teams may just have erasers at one spot, maybe two spots. You had it all over the field. You created that with every position. That was different about Tech's defense. Well,
the one thing Elmo used to always talk about was we wanted to have, out of our 11 players, we need to have 6 playmakers that, and then hopefully the other 5 will play for us and not for the opponent, and that was kind of and that's what we needed, so you could get hopefully have some elite players at a couple different positions. And not that all of them weren't, because we really had a stretch run where we had a lot of depth. We had a lot of competition. We had good talent. And they wanted to please each other. They didn't want to let each other down. And so that was a good formula for that, that we had a lot of good college football players. Not everybody's going to go to the NFL, but everybody can be a good football player if they put their mind and effort into it. And that's what we were able to do. We had a great strength program, and I see a lot of similarities with what James is doing with what we tried to do at Virginia Tech, or with Coach Beamer, and it starts in the weight room. We had Mike Gentry was that foundational piece for us, that we were bigger, faster, stronger. We had a great mindset. We had a lot of self-confidence because of what we did and accomplished in there. And I'm seeing that kind of form with Chuck Losey and his staff with this program, because that's the foundation of your football program. I don't care at any place, Ohio State, Notre Dame, any of the powerhouses, Alabama, you know, you always hear about their great strength coaches. And we have one of the, you know, we did have one of the great strength coaches in Mike Gentry, and we have now in current status, one of the great and outstanding and great strength coaches in Chuck Losey.
Looking back, Coach, how significant was the recruitment of Cornell Brown and getting that commitment to kind of jumpstart things a little bit?
You know, that was huge, because Cornell, we were kind of that time when we were just coming off 92 season. We were 2-8-1, and that's Coach Beamer let a bunch of guys go. That's when he brought in Phil, you know, to Phil Elmation, who I have the utmost respect for, one of my mentors and a guy that really good football coach. But, you know, Cornell wanted to stay close to home. He could have gone anywhere he wanted in the country, and top player in the state. And for him to make that decision to come to Virginia Tech changed everything. We were 2-8-1, but I knew we had a chance to be a really good football team. Those 8 football games that we lost in 92, we were leading going in the fourth quarter in 7 of those games. And we were primarily a redshirt freshman sophomore football team.
Right.
And we had inherited kind of a shit show, excuse my language, but we had to battle, some probation and some things that, we had to battle through. So we could only have limited recruiting classes. So as far as our numbers, so we were a young football team, but I knew we were a talented football team. And we just needed a quarterback to play well for us, which we had Maurice DeShazo, who was a really talented player in his own right, but was not like a Cornell Brown, who was the top player in the state of Virginia. And then all of a sudden, when you get that kind of guy committing to you, and then it changed everything. His work ethic, his ability to play and make plays. I mean, like I said, he was an eraser right from the get-go.
Yeah.
I mean, he started as a true freshman at about 205 pounds for us at defensive end. And we started to win, and then that just opened everybody's eyes that, hey, this is a really good football program. They're developing their players, but they can also get some of the best players, in the state. And then that's what started happening. We started winning. And then next thing you know, George Welsh was at UVA at the time. We were able, between the two programs and the two universities, were able to kind of build a fence around the state of Virginia. And we had some great recruiting battles. They had the Terry Kirbys and the Chris Slades, and, they were getting those kind of guys. And we started getting Cornell Brown. But then as we moved forward, then we were able to get the Chris Ellis, the D'Angelo Halls, the Xavier Deeby, the Nathaniel Adebis. We were the Macho Harris. We were able to get those elite players ourselves. And then, next thing you know, you've got 2 programs or 2 top 20 football programs, but Cornell was a key piece to all of that, with him making that decision. I think that makes a statement when you can, and I know this is happening with James. I know we lost the top player in the state this year to, I think he committed to LSU, maybe the Weatherford kid.
Yeah.
And I know, but we've been able to land a lot of the top players in state right now. James has kind of had a foot, but that makes a statement when we can keep our players at home, and we should be able to. We've got good. Right now our facilities, James is changing that whole facility is going to look totally different. It's getting a whole new facelift. But just with who he is, the staff that he's brought in, how competitive we're going to be. I think it's going to be hard down the road for an in-state player not to look at Virginia Tech first, and you want that, whether it's Virginia Tech, UVA, you want that to be, we want to be able to, be proud of what we have at home, when it's all said and done.
Well, you did it not only with great players like that, Coach, but I want to talk about the walk-ons that you developed and Coach Gentry developed. I think a guy like Ben Taylor, somebody like that. Talk about how those guys, how you identified those guys, because you had several guys that were so integral to a lot of those terrific defenses you had.
Yeah, Ben was a scholarship player, but he was a guy, though, that he was a skinny wide receiver safety that we saw. He was in Ohio, played at, a lower level of Ohio, but really was just a football player. That's kind of what we were, you have to have the right measurables, and you can't be a midget. Now, Corey Moore was a small guy, but he had some intangibles. That was the only bad thing about Corey Moore. After Corey, everybody had the next Corey Moore, you know what I mean? But Corey Moore was one of a kind. I mean, that you just don't have that guy. Him and Dwight Freeney were kind of that. They were together, but both about similar size-wise. And, Dwight went on and had a great career, but Ben was a guy, though, that was truly developmental guy. We brought him in. We played him at our whip linebacker, which now when we switch it around, our whip was like our rover. He was more of a safety, weak side safety. We drop him down and run fits and things. Then, and at the end, our whip turned to the field and our rover was into the boundary, and our safety is in our terminology. People that followed us. But anyway, Ben was a guy that kept getting bigger, faster, stronger, and kept moving closer and closer to the line of scrimmage, and then ended up the last couple of years played for me at linebacker, was an All-American linebacker, and a big part of that is what he did in the weight room, but then went on and had, played 6-7 years in the NFL. But you talk about John Burke, who was a guy that walked on, played tight end for us, was on the scout team. We needed a second tight end. We had a guy hurt, and Burke was down there kicking our tail on scout team. And so he said, hey, this guy can play. If he can learn it quick enough, he can play for us. And next thing you know, he's starting for us and went on and played 5 or 6 years in the NFL. Cody Grimm was another guy. Jack Tyler was another guy, that was a walk-on that earned all league. I'm just trying to think of some other guys that those are the ones that stick out. But, we really – And I hope this continues. I know the rosters are changing to 105 within college athletics. I know they don't, as far as to say, coaches don't want to lose the opportunity to recruit walk-on kids. So not all places are going to have 105 people on scholarship. I think with the revenue share, being able to spread the wealth, to your top players is important. But I do think you can't look at a crystal ball and see the development of somebody, and guys get passed by. John Engelberger, I forgot, I recruited John too. And John, she's, was a walk-on kid that came in here at 6'4", 215 pounds and left at 6'5", 265 and,
right.
Played 11 years in the NFL. But, those are guys we really worked hard with Coach Beamer of recruiting walk-on guys. Guys that we felt like could earn scholarships, guys that we saw were good football players, but maybe needed another year to develop, and then let's see where they go. And I know this, I think the coaches don't want to lose that opportunity. I can see going to 95 scholarships and then you have another 10 as walk-on kids, and I think that's important. And those guys, they're so invaluable to your program from a standpoint. Number one, they want to be there first and foremost. And then number two, they usually have a great love for the institution. And then number three, they're unselfish type guys, and they want to do what's best for the football team. We had some of our best football, and I'll say this, we had some great teammates that were really good football players that never took a snap in a regular game. But they helped us win a lot of football games. Right. They helped Coach Beamer get in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Those were guys that just this is what I said. They cared about the institution. They had a love for their teammates. And then they went out and worked every day. They knew their role, and that was to give us the best look that they possibly could. And that's just an unselfish person. They were never in my office, wanting. I had a couple that, hey, Coach, will I get an opportunity to play? You keep grinding, you will. And that's what ended up happening because we had a lot of guys that would play on special teams and that type of thing. But they also had to be good enough to win, because we just weren't, like I said, it wasn't a participation trophy. It was you guys, but those guys earned their success. You know, they really did when it was all said and done. But we like those guys because a lot of them usually come in with a chip on their shoulder when it's all said and done.
Right. Well, Coach, I got to ask you, probably, you know, when talked about you coming on the show, people want me to go back to September 6, 2014. I just heard Urban Meyer talking about you on some podcast. I got to talk about the Bear front and what you did to the Buckeyes. He still it still bothers him that he had no answer. Can you talk about the creation, when you started thinking about that? Because you guys went up there and beat the number one team on their home field, like, you know, they were just like dirty laundry. But what was it about you and what you noticed and how that was going to work? And
well, that was a combination of me and then Torian Gray. Torian was my secondary coach, and one of the big things I wanted from Torian is that can we play man coverage with the guys, you know, because then that allows you to be a little more aggressive around the line of scrimmage, you know. And but then Torian, and we were always played bear. We kind of got out of, Phil brought it in when we put in the package in 1993. I kind of picked my poison to use it because it's a good defense, but offenses started knowing how to attack it, and you could have there was some vulnerability to it. And Phil would even tell you his first year, we ran it probably about 30% of the time, 35% of the time. His first year, we had some success, and then he might not know this, but after he left in 94, we really did a big evaluation. And in 94, the Bear front gave up like 12 yards per play. I mean, it was not a very efficient defense for us. Now, we create a lot of minus yardage plays, but we gave up a lot of big plays.
Right.
And so I went from about 34 to 35% percentage using it to about 8%, and then picking my time when to use it. Still moved in and out of it, but we dabbled with it. I still jumped into it here and there. I used it in pressure situations. It wasn't like it was just something new to us, but to go back and hang our hat on it was, you know, we kind of put all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak. And really the whole concept was we had a good secondary, and we felt like we could match up with their receivers. Now, we were anticipating Braxton Miller playing. You know, he was the quarterback, and then TJ Barrett ended up being the guy because Braxton got hurt. And that probably was a feather in our cap when it was all said and done, that they had a freshman guy coming in playing for the first time, to be honest with you. I mean, and they probably couldn't do a whole lot with him at that time, you know, from as far as adjustments and that type of thing. But what we wanted to do was they had Ezekiel Elliott running back, and they were a big power read team. And so we felt like we could match up with them outside. So we just loaded the box and played with Bear. We basically walked our free safety down and walked him down as a backside linebacker who they couldn't block. And we wanted to keep the ball in the phone booth, keep the ball off the perimeter. And be honest with you, we wanted to keep the ball in the quarterback's hand. You know, and even we were thinking Braxton Miller, and everybody saw what he did to us the next year, that spin move and things that he did when he came here in 2015. But, you know, dynamic athlete, but we wanted to keep him in a phone booth. And really that's what we did. And then we got him behind the sticks, and then we were able to run our normal package. I think I remember we had 8 or 10 sacks in that game, you know, and I was bringing pressure from every which way and zeroed in kind of on their protection a little bit. And we were bringing 4 from a side on third down, but it's still, they made it a heck of a game. I mean, we had to, you know, we kind of pulled it out right there at the end with a pick 6. But yeah, that was a great win against a great program. And, you know, we were fortunate to have a lot of those in our time here. You know, I remember a lot of tough losses because we had some really good games against some really good opponents. And those are the lessons and scars you have. But then there's also a lot of rewarding wins when you can beat a team like, you know, Ohio State or a Notre Dame at their place, or, you know, a Nebraska at their place, or a Texas A&M at their place. Right. I mean, there's, you know, those kind of staple wins that, you know, you remember and particularly against programs or the iconic programs in college football.
When you're calling pressures, Coach, back in is it a feel like an offensive play caller? or did you just see certain things immediately and you knew you could take advantage of it? Or was that just an instinct that you developed as a defensive coach?
Well, I think, we really put a lot of time into our preparation, and there was times people probably accused me and even Phil back in the day, but I learned that from Phil. That's where I learned my lessons from Phil, things that I wanted to do and some things that I didn't want to do, not, or how I wanted to do them,
Sure.
it was different. It'd just be different. But that's the one thing I really studied our protections. That was one thing that we really, that was my baby a little bit. I zeroed in on that. I would stay up until I wouldn't leave the office on Wednesday. It was my late night that I kind of finalized my game plan. But I used to go over every third down play on Wednesday night and look at our coverages I wanted to be. I zeroed in because we were the top defense in the country for years on third down efficiency. And then led the country in sacks. So that combination, good rush meant good coverage meant for good rush, And but really though, I really zeroed in on when do I do zero coverage blitz, when do we do fire zone blitz, what's by formation. Sometimes we had what we call blitz the formation. It could be we knew where the protection was going to be, so we designed a pressure that week to come from the side that we were going to have one more defender than they had blocker. And so it was calculated, but then once you get into the game, it becomes instinct, and it becomes tendency driven. But, that's where we earn our check as coaches on game day when you make your adjustments. That's what we were known for, because we saw a lot of different looks than what we prepared for. We really did, because people were concerned about our pressure and our penetration and things of that nature. And so that's where, I kind of had to make my hay a little bit in making our adjustments. But a lot of that, to answer your question, was prepared, and then we practiced that. And then it becomes instincts when you want to use it in the game. And, and probably one thing I was a little different. You see very few coordinators, whether it's offensively or defensively, will run the same play back to back or the same defense, particularly pressure back to back. I'd be one of those guys that I might do it back to back, and those offensive coordinators thinking he's not going to do it again. And I would, and that's where you just needed to be. That's where instincts come in, I think, a little bit. You have tendencies, but then also you have to change those things up, and it becomes a chess match. But it also, there's a feel thing to it too, when it's all said and done in the course of a game. Analytics is a big part, but I still think instincts is a big part too, and how your players are playing, the feel of the game, who's in control, a lot of things like that,
Agreed. Well, Coach, we're getting a ton of questions for you. We won't be able to cover all this today. We'll have to get you back on here.
Yeah, well, I'd love to, Rick. I'd love to, buddy. Hey, this early in the morning, though, man, you're pushing me. I'm semi-retired.
Yeah, but you were up all night doing preparation for offenses for years, right?
No, I'm with you. No, I'm excited to be here, and I appreciate you having me on the show.
Well, no, I appreciate, we've always done this, you and I, back in the old radio days. And so it's always been great. One question to ask you, because it's the one I've gotten the most. Coach, was there one quarterback you remember that was always one guy that you looked at, okay, we got to make sure this guy doesn't beat us? Who was the one opposing quarterback?
Easy. Donovan McNabb. And I've been doing a Tech Sideline podcast, and we did this a couple of weeks ago.
Great. Those are great.
It was the players, some of the players. We played the who's who of quarterbacks, man. And we jump-started a lot of careers here at Virginia Tech. And but I'll say this, just because we played Donovan, the most, and just we were 2-2 against him, but one of the most competitive guys I've ever been around, and just a highly skilled football player. He's the only guy. He beat us his senior year. It was the last play of the game. You remember 2018 or 1998. And I remember Kevin Rogers. I was so upset after that game because I called timeout and drew the play up that they were going to run. We only practiced it 100 times, man. So it was just a bust by one of our players. But anyway, Donovan on that last drive he scrambled and was right in front of me and threw up, he was, exhausted. We really beat the hell out of him that day, but he finished the game. Just what a true competitor, true warrior. And I remember Kevin Rogers was, who ended up coaching with us.
Right.
And I've known Kevin since I've gotten here at Virginia Tech in 1987, but Kevin our locker rooms were side by side in the old Carrier Dome, or in the Carrier Dome. And I saw him standing outside, Kevin. I said, "Hey, can I go in, and is Donovan still in? And if he is, can I go in and say hello to him?" And so he said, "Yeah." So I went in and congratulated him on the win and told him I'm so glad that he's gone, and but wished him the best. But Donovan was they ran him, but he wasn't a guy that when he could create plays, but he wasn't a guy that would take off and run, like Mike Vick would take off and run. Donovan had that ability, maybe not to the speed of Mike, but he was always looking downfield. He could create such good plays, by getting out of the pocket. And that guy really taught me a whole lot about when you have a dynamic athlete. It kind of goes back to even like what we were doing with Braxton Miller. You got to keep that guy in a phone booth and limit his ability to create plays in space. But he was the thing why I rate him is just he was such a competitor, and he had that warrior mentality. Now, he had a good football team around him. Marvin Harrison was his receiver. You had Rob Conrad. It was at that time frame, the old Big East was a really good football
league. Great league.
You had us, Miami, Syracuse. You had West Virginia was really good. BC was really good. It was just, it was a good. Pitt was always solid, at the time. They weren't where they are now. They kind of went through a stretch where they're about a 500 football team, but Pitt's Pitt. They got a great tradition, but that was just a really underrated league until we played in the bowl games. Then we kicked everybody's tail,
Right, exactly.
But Donovan was, he's a guy, I say that without hesitation. And I've had that question asked to me 1,000 times. And he's the guy that I think was just an incredible quarterback, and was a guy that was extremely challenging.
Coach, we'll let you go. We'll let you say hi to that guy, Dwight Vick.
Yeah, my buddy Dwight. He's another guy that changed our program too. And helped recruit that 757 area. We have him, and we lost one of our true Hokies, man, and Roniel Whitaker here recently, and Dwight was a big part of getting Deuce here, but Deuce, those guys, man, were such important guys in recruiting the 757 and letting them know that this was a family place and that we were good, we were doing special things, and Dwight was a ringleader of that, and he continues to be special to Virginia Tech, and he'll always have a special place in my heart. I can tell you that. Dwight's a great representative of Virginia Tech and our program, and really, really proud of him. So you guys have fun. Dwight, it's great seeing you, buddy. Love you, man. And
great seeing you, Coach.
He might not be able to hear me, but please tell him I said I love him, Rick. Okay. And
I will.
But appreciate you having me on the show, buddy. And look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, let's do it again soon, Coach. Thanks so much for your time, man.
Okay, take care.
All right,
bye-bye.
To you, man. All right, brother. There you go. That's Bud Foster, the coach, Bud Foster. Great. What's up, DV? You got me? Can you hear me?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in a different room today, man.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, just making sure my connection.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I want to make sure my connection is good. I was trying to talk to Coach, man, but he was dropping some gems, man.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll let you.
Can you hear me, Rick?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me? Okay. I think he's trying to get settled into a new spot there.
All right. Yeah. All right. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, man. We got you. Yeah, that was great talking to Coach. Some great stuff there. And you won't be surprised because you've mentioned it as well. The quarterback that it stands out that he played against was Donovan McNabb. That was the one guy that he said. So.
Yeah, what's funny? I posted a video on my Facebook and Instagram account. I have an account I share with Mike, and then I have another one, the Victory Life one, in Facebook. But it was the game against Syracuse, the '95 game, and when I go back and look at those games, you forget about how dynamic some of those players Bud schemed against some of the best players in college football history. Pretty amazing when you think about how good Donovan McNabb was, man. You know, because he was before Mike, and he played as a redshirt freshman or a freshman, and he was really, really dynamic. He was a redshirt freshman with the same year, and he really made that option, that triple option in Syracuse, very difficult. We had a run where we would beat them in Blacksburg, and then we couldn't beat them in the Dome, and we could never beat them up there. I think the only win they got was with Mike that year in 2000.
Yeah. Well, I thought about you and what you've told us about Mike, and it's clear to see why the influence of Donovan McNabb nearly landed him at Syracuse, right? Just because, a lot of the similar type of play. Now, obviously, coaches pointed out Donovan wasn't as fast as Mike, but still, they had that similar type of thing, didn't they? The two of them. So it makes perfect sense why that was somewhere he thought he could just go and follow and just be, okay, I'm going to just continue this lineage of these great quarterbacks here.
Yeah, McNabb thought he had him, but like Coach Foster mentioned, man, I was a hell of a recruiter. If I could get on the phone with you or get you in Blacksburg and I hosted you, I was the closer, man. I helped. I didn't host Lee Suggs, but I helped host him with Sharon Stith. Of course, I hosted Michael Vick. I recruited Marcus. Even though I didn't host him on his visit, I was gone by then. I would call him all the time. He was leaning towards Miami, and I kept telling him about Tech and what he could do there. Obviously, Tyrod Taylor and I went to the same high school. I'm older than Tyrod, obviously, but I've known Tyrod since he was a kid. I'm friends with his dad, so I would always be home in my Tech gear and talk to Tyrod about Tech. Again, I mean, I really took pride, like Coach Foster said, in being sort of an ambassador of Virginia Tech, because Tech was so great to me and my family, and I have so many great memories there, man. Like, you talk about if you could go back, what would you do? Or like, if you could go back in time, I would love to go back in time to my days of Virginia Tech. That was just a great time.
Yeah, and you've talked about that, right? It's times that I hope players today take the time to appreciate instead of just rushing through and collecting checks. And I hope they don't just look at it as a next stop to try to make money. You're right. It was such a big part of your life. You met your wife there at Tech. You have these long-standing relationships with coaches and players that have helped you. Like you've talked about how many times with me about taking into what you do now as a therapist and how all that just kind of helped mold that. And it all happened when you got to Blacksburg, right? That's when it started to develop. So it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah. It's cool. It's choosing the right school is important. I think if there's a criticism I have of today's kids, not the kids, maybe the families, is that NIL aside, even before NIL got into it, I don't know if today's kids are doing their due diligence when it comes to really like researching a school, taking your visits, and you choose a school and you look at like the coaching staff and you look at the field, the schedule, the uniforms, the energy. That's very important, the facilities to some degree. But I've always told kids, look at the school even outside the environment, the culture, like Southwest Virginia. Could you be there on a Tuesday night in the off season and be okay? Will you be okay, there as far as the safety concerned, the academics, because you're going to go to class. Do they have the support? What about the social life? I mean, is it comfortable for you? Are you going to be able to go out and have a good time? I mean, I met my wife there, and I was just down in Charlotte, North Carolina, with the former Virginia Tech standout point guard Troy Mans, who played there after transferring from George Mason. We're still good friends to this day, and was there celebrating his wife's birthday, who also went to Virginia Tech. She's a licensed therapist like me, practicing out of Richmond, Virginia. So I have hundreds, and I mean this, I have hundreds of friends I met in my 5 years at Blacksburg. I should say 6, because when I got cut from the Ravens and I was trying to get back in the league, I came back in '99 and coached I was a strength and conditioning coach with Mike Gentry.
That's right.
So I was there one more year after my 5 years was up. So yeah, I was there a long time, man. And it was a great time, but it wasn't just about football. And that's what I think these kids sometimes miss, because you look at kids now, not just with Virginia Tech, but UVA, Maryland, whatever school, you can pick a school, man. They go there, Radford, and they focus on one thing. And you got to look at the body of work, so to speak. I don't mean the sports. I mean the graduation rates, the supports, the culture. Is it going to fit you in the off season? Because during the season, you're going to be super busy.
How much? I was just thinking about you talking about eras and what you went through. Your son, you had a lot of. He had to find the right place, and you had to help him along that, but let him choose his own path. How much different was that experience for you, thinking about when you came through and now with your son in this new environment, because he's earned the right to make a little more and to be at a place, right, where he's going to be at a higher level. How much did that take you? Did you have to be a kind of a self-therapist, if you will, to say, okay, this is now, this is not how I was when I played, so I got to understand that. How much did that help you guide him through that to end up where he ended up?
I use the same blueprint as my father, my mother. My father and mother, my dad has his PhD. My mom has a master's, so neither one of them were athletes, but education was really big for them. But when I was being recruited, my mom and dad were very invested in just trying to figure out how they could support me, but also make it my decision. My father was really feeling the University of Florida. The University of Florida during that time, in the 90s and late 80s, were playing for national championships. Obviously they're in the SEC, and Steve Spurrier's brother was recruiting me very hard. My dad also liked NC State. I was born at Duke University. People don't realize that. I was born at Duke in Durham. My sister was born at Duke. And my sister was born in Raleigh, and they lived in North Carolina when we were little. So my dad really liked NC State, loved Florida. UVA was on me harder than Virginia Tech at the time. So I had a lot of schools. Pittsburgh was my first official phone call, University of Pitt. And it was cool, like just being recruited and having options. But slowly you start taking visits. East Carolina kind of jumped up near the top, and you start to get a feel for where you're going to go, and your parents or your aunt or whoever you live with, your foster mother, whoever it is, they have to help you make an informed decision, but not make it their decision. There's a balance to it. So on the visits with Isaiah, it was cool because he went to Fort Union prep, and then the following year, he had a slew of D2 offers. I mean, Fairmont State, Wingate, a lot of schools in West Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, the South. And we liked a lot of the schools, UNC Pembroke. I looked at what I just described. And I would every time he got a call or an offer, or we took a visit, the next day we would sit down as a family and process the visit. We would say, okay, do you like this coach? I think for Isaiah, he's cut from my cloth. He has to be comfortable. And I think that's what these it's no different from, when you're picking a job. Are you comfortable there? Not complacent. Complacent and being comfortable are different. Yeah. Right. Are you comfortable? Do you feel like you can grow academically, mentally, physically, and to some degree spiritually? Can you grow there? And so far, fingers crossed, thank God above, he's chosen the right schools every time. A lot of times people think, oh, they chose him or her. No, you choose the school, and it's mutual. Right. Some of these guys we've talked about in jest and joking. A lot of these guys in this business lie. They lie a lot.
A whole lot.
So, So you got to make sure you can kind of make yourself known as far as what you need and what you want. But it was cool going through the recruiting process with driving a few flights. This past year was even more intense because he was named one of the top 10 underclassmen in Division II. So he had a lot of schools talking to him. And it was crazy because for me, I always knew he was a Division I basketball player, but with the portal now, a lot of kids in football and basketball are kind of lost in we're going to take this kid from here, because college coaches now are not recruiting high school unless you're a nationally ranked top 100 player. Right. College coaches are going to the portal first, and then they're going to prep and JUCO. So Isaiah, being a really dynamic high school basketball player here in the DMV, he got conversations and he went on visits to JMU and American and Mount St. Mary's, and William & Mary was talking to him, but there was no consistent follow through because they would be talking to you and then all of a sudden they would get a guard or a wing that was more seasoned than you. And the truth of the matter is turnover was an issue when I played with coaches moving around. It's even a bigger issue now. I remember one time we were talking to a coach and he said, "Hey, look, I'll call you back because I don't know who the hell I have coming back for next year."
Right.
He didn't know. Because as soon as the season is, you got to sit down and re-recruit the roster. So that was probably the biggest difference, Rick, was making sure that I educated myself on this new age, this new era of collegiate sports. But I think the one thing you got to do as a parent is take your ego out of it, because my dad, when I was being recruited, he was not a Tech guy before he got to Tech. Like my dad, as I mentioned, really, really liked Florida. And Florida was they were a household name then, they're a household name now. I didn't want to go to Florida. It was too far away from home for me. I had never even taken a flight. I had never been on a plane before. And my first flight was when I left Blacksburg, when I flew back home. And then I also don't like the heat. I'm not a big fan of, Southern heat. Like my son last night was talking to me, telling me about the Louisiana heat is something different.
Question in chat. I think you've probably answered it in the past, but what were some of the, was there one or two big factors that made you pick Tech? Because you had kind of had the world in your hand there. If you could have gone just about anywhere. What was it about Tech specifically? I know you've mentioned it before, but
yeah, man. Beamer and Coach Hike. Coach Hike recruited Coach Hike recruited the DeBatha, DC, Maryland, Northern Virginia area. But that year they were going through some shuffling. That was the only year he recruited the Tidewater area. And Coach Hite was just a great recruiter. And Beamer as well. Beamer, I came home from basketball practice and he was in my living room. And he sold me on the fact that they really made a push that year to get some of the best players in the state. And they wanted to, it was cool to say, we want you to come. Like Bud Foster said, like, looking back, I was along with the guys I came in with, we were a big part of building what Tech is known for now. Like the expectations that everybody has for Tech started with my class and the classes before me. So Cornell Brown and Antonio Banks were huge, and they were both guys that I saw that started as freshmen. Lawrence Lewis and Antonio Banks were from my area. So seeing them from my district in the Independence Bowl, both scoring. Lawrence Lewis from Kickinton High School scored on a blocked field goal by Jeff Holland, who's from Western Branch from my area. And then Antonio Banks returning the blocked field goal for a touchdown, and Lawrence Lewis scoring on a fumble recovery. That kind of sold it for me, just the fact that there were so many in-state guys, and Beamer was like, come help us build something where we could potentially play for a national championship. And they did. I was just 1 year off. That's for another segment when my mom enrolled me in school early. Because if I was in the year before, I would have came out a year later, and Mike and I would have played together, and I would have played the national championship game. But it was just cool, bro. It was cool, Rick. It was cool to be part of, I came out with Aaron Brooks, who ended up going to UVA. And, you know, you have myself, Ken Oxendine, Marcus Parker from Salem, Virginia, who one time rushed for 366 yards in a football game in Salem, a playoff game. So we were really at that time, a really great class. Todd Washington, who went and played in the NFL, won the Super Bowl, was a 4th-round draft pick by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Derek Smith got drafted by the Redskins in the 5th round despite having a torn ACL. So, I mean, we came in with a lot of expectations, and many of us played right away or redshirted and played the following year like I did. So Tech felt, as corny as this may sound, because it's a slogan now, but Tech felt like home. It was a great time, man. Every time I go back, I get emotional, bro, because
I know you
think
do.
about you think about what we did and what we accomplished. And 5 years, man, were amazing. Like like Coach Foster was talking about. And it's amazing, man, because that just kind of shows you how life, not just football, is a game of inches, right? If I chose the UVA or if I go to Florida, almost like in Back to the Future when Michael J. Fox messed up history, the trajectory, when his parents were disappearing on that picture, right? If I don't go to Tech, there is no Isaiah, Sydney, and Lauren. There is no my wife and I. There is no Michael and Marcus. I'm not saying they came because of me, but maybe a lot of the guys I influenced that were from the Hampton Roads area, all the guys that Foster mentioned, we go somewhere else. You know, do I create victory life? You never know. That's the cool part about, you know, the choice you made. I made the right choice, man. I take pride in that.
Yeah, you're like a combination of Marty McFly and Doc Brown. You had the correct picture started to be taken away, and he filled it back in. Right? He had the correct.
I just wish I could. I wish we had that. But you know, you gotta live with regrets. You gotta live with your choices, man. But I that's one of my favorite movies, man, because the concept of going back in time is something many people like myself would love to do. It's not even about like trying to correct every mistake. It would just go back and say, "No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that."
Yeah, yelling at yourself, seeing yourself in the present day, and go, "No, don't make that decision, you idiot." Yeah, I know.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great stuff. That's cool. That's cool. Well, it's good, man. And what you're carving out now, you think about all those lessons. I mean, how much you're helping people now. I mean, it's not easy what you do, my friend. I mean, it's to be commended. I say it all the time, but you're helping people get beyond whatever stage it is of, if it's grief, if it's law, whatever it is, you know, even accomplishment, right? You have to learn how to handle those things. And I don't know, man, it's, you can always go back to all those times and think about each stage, how you felt, you know, to help everybody else. So it's cool.
I think that's the thing too. Thank you for that. Thank you. I really never take any kind of feedback. I never take that for granted. Like, I appreciate you and Foster say, and other coaches and other men and women in the New River Valley or here in Northern Virginia or where I'm from in Tidewater. But I think it also comes down to, man, just like, as I always say, like I tell everybody in your chat and I tell people all the time, don't lose yourself in this madness of life. Don't lose it, man. Like, it is so easy to be overwhelmed by your problems, your finances. One of my friends from Virginia Tech just found out his brother has stage 5 kidney disease. And then yesterday, a guy I went to college with named Keith, God rest his soul, was in hospice for heart failure, and he passed. My wife went to go visit him last week. He passed away yesterday with his family by his bedside.
Wow.
So both those guys I mentioned, one is still alive, the other one just passed. Both those guys are Virginia Tech graduates, and both those guys love the Hokies, right? So when I talk about living in the moment and appreciating, as much as I want to beat the brakes off Maryland, I can't let that affect my psyche and my outlook on life. I think that's the difference between me and some people. I'm always amazed how, like, a fan, and I'm not picking on the Cowboys this morning, I'm gonna leave them alone, but you look a a fan will go knowing a program or an NFL or NBA team like the Wizards have been bad for so long and still spend thousands of dollars every year. That is, I couldn't do it. I feel like as I've gotten older, especially with the work I do, I'm okay with spending a weekend or a day doing something else with people I love. And that does not mean, everyone knows I'm very competitive. I love sports and I love my Hokies. I will carve out 4 hours and some change to watch them play. And I will do my pod and I will come on your show because I love your show and I will do what I do. But there's a balance there. I've seen people kind of lose themselves in this thing, man. And you got to just, and I don't just mean sports, I mean life. You know, people will argue all day on Facebook about gas prices and Iran and Iraq. Meanwhile, you know, you need to go call your grandmother. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's right.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the season. Yeah. No, it's going to be, and we'll get into picks and so forth coming up because you and I are going to be doing that every week anyway. So we'll be looking forward to that. Hey, we'll be popping again tonight if you're around. So
yeah, man, I love coming on, man. The guys, I appreciate, man. Look, if y'all listening, man, Thursday nights, man, it's a great time. We just some guys talking life and sports, man. It's really cool. I like that, man. I like it too because it's you know, we talk about the different trends in sports and in life and dynamics and movies and met Almation's wife last week. Almation, man, look, hey Rick, man, you know, you might be goated, man. The guys you be having on your show weekly. You know, I mean, you do a great job. You got a show tomorrow, man. Like, it's really cool. I see the subscribers are going up. Yep. You know, you talk about resilience. I'm gonna take time to give you your flowers. I remember when you reached out to me and you emailed me. You knew of me, I knew of you, but we had never met. And you were like, hey, I'm getting the band back together. I'm going to come on and do radio. Come on. And I was like, I got you. And that formed into a great segment, a great thing I was doing with you. And then that was doing well, but then some politics got involved and you were like, we're done. I'm going to figure something out. And now, to be real with you, this is even better. This is even better. We get to see people, man. And
I know.
Kudos to you for keeping this thing going, man. And the guests you have on is just phenomenal. I feel like I'm entertained and educated. And when you're entertained and educated, how could you not appreciate it? Because I'm learning something, I'm laughing, and I'm also leaving smarter than when I tuned in. So again, how can you not love that, right?
Yeah, exactly. And seeing people, it's changed the whole game. It has. And like you just see, well, Coach Foster, you could just see it. He was almost like got his hat back on backwards again on the sideline talking about some of this stuff. You could just see it in his eyes, you know.
Hey, man. Hey, Coach Foster, listen, Coach Foster, I couldn't talk because my connection wasn't up. Coach Foster is the best. Like, you know, I saw somebody on Twitter saying he needs a statue. He really does. I mean, you can make an argument, and I say argument because people love to argue. But you can really make an argument. He is the best defensive coordinator in college football history, at least top 3, top 4. What he did,
100%.
I mean, if we're being very honest, I mean, especially during some of those lean years when the offense was just sputtering along at times, and you had quarterbacks that weren't Brian Randall, Michael Vick, Marcus, or Jim Druckenmiller or Maurice, but they were decent. The defense still carried you to 9, 10, 11 wins. You know, and you talk about the household names his defense helped create that came to Tech as people you didn't even know of. Cam Chancellor had one scholarship offer, and I don't even know if that was committable coming out of high school. He was a basketball player. And Stein Spring had the Tidewater area on lock. So you look at what Macho Harris did, all the guys that came through that tunnel for Bud Foster. So, you know, to this day, man, you know, I mean, I hope Pry and those guys get it right, but we talk about the era of Beamer and company, but that's what they're trying to get back to, is because I've said to you and your listeners and your viewers, if Virginia Tech's going to win, the O-line especially and the D-line have to be really good. But the biggest thing I've seen, the drop-off, is the defense.
Yes.
If you think Virginia Tech, you think defense. And yeah, our defense, man, blown coverages, guys getting ran over and all of that, man, we got to get back. But I think Franklin knows that. I think the one thing about Franklin is he was there from afar as well as up close coaching against Tech. He knows what Tech is supposed to look like. And I think that's also been lost. But anyway, man, it's almost time, man. I've been watching so many Netflix series. I'm like, man, I need some confrontations. I need some scrimmages, man. I need some high school football, man. Look, this is that time of the year, Rick. It's almost time to get in the car. So I can't wait. But anyway, man, I love it. This is a great time. Close.
It is.
Parlays, fantasy football, pizza wings.
And dogging the Cowboys.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Chris. Chris is one of my good friends. I pick on the Cowboys only because it's so much fun. But I'm not a hater. If they win, I may hate that, but I'm not a hater. Anyway. All right, man. Appreciate you. Let me run my mouth this morning.
No,
man.
It's great as always, brother. Great to see you, man. And I'll send you an invite tonight.
Okay. All right. See you later.
All right, man. Take care. Have a good day. The great Dwight Vick. You can talk to Dwight all day. What a great human being. Really is. What a great show. Thanks to everybody who stopped by and chat. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. Don't forget, give Professional Door a call, 674-0008 here in the month of July to get you $40 off for your preventative maintenance. You got to mention you heard it from us here on the show. We will do the pop tonight around 6:45, Big Dog Pop, and we'll let that develop and do our thing. But thanks to Bob Black. Bob is just terrific, Coach Foster, I don't know about you, but couldn't you have done that like another hour? Right? So good. And, of course, you top it off with Dwight Vick. Great show today. We head into the Finally Friday edition. It's been a great week of shows. We'll remind you, we got another great week lining up next week. Just keep on keeping on. That's what we do. Take care, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow on the Finally Friday edition. And we'll see you tonight on Pop, 6:45. Y'all be good. Take care.